I feel well, I feel strong, and the jury will do the right thing.
Now, the pressure must be quite intense. All the crowds outside. We heard in Reed's first trial the jurors could hear the protesting going on outside. That is not good. Now, we hope it's not happening this time around. We haven't heard of any problems with that. But let's talk about it some more. Let's bring in jury consultant and human behavior expert, Susan Constantine. Susan, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show today. Would you share with us what you've learned in your work doing consulting about what it's like for jurors to sit on high-profile cases like this one?
Well, the stakes are super high. So when you think about the stakes being that high, their decision that they have to make, they have to live with. And that's one of the biggest ones. Can I find her guilty or not guilty, but can I actually live with it? And because you have to think about, they're living in this little town, right? Amongst all of their other neighbors and so forth. And you're going to have all of these mixed opinions, right? So that is flashing through their minds of their family, their friends, their church, their coworkers, all of them. Can they actually live with what their verdict is? So taking on that kind of pressure is enormous. However, I think it adds a lot of strength, and they feel more confident when they've got more groupthink involved, right? So it's not just their opinion, but rather a group of them. 12 jurors came to a specific verdict, which then takes the pressure off of them and onto the jury pool as a whole.
Really helpful insight, Susan. And you learned this during the break, and I want to share with all of our viewers at home. So you heard me say perhaps at the top of the show how we had a juror who served on Chad Daybell's murder trial booked to do this segment this morning, and she canceled, saying that it's brought up way too much anxiety for her. That trial was back in 2024, and this juror, a lovely woman named Dana, she came on the show with me before. Some of you wonderful courties at home may have remembered that interview. Lovely, lovely person. And I certainly understand if she felt anxious, you know, that's not a good thing. Hey, you know, I'm a person first, I always say. Susan, I'm sure this doesn't surprise you, does it, that someone could still be experiencing anxiety even now after the case is closed?
Sure. I mean, they've had to sit through and listen to just horrific stuff, right? I mean, this is not like a gruesome, you know, alleged murder case, but they're still looking at photos over and over and over again of a person who was wounded, who was deceased, who was left out in the snow, and that nobody seemed to have seen him. So there is that weight on them. It's really a
And we're going to work to see if we can repair Susan's signal there. Something else that just occurred to me is that Chad Daybell's trial, we go back and think about it, that wasn't like every trial. That was a capital case. That was a death penalty trial. He was sentenced to death, and he's currently trying to appeal this case. So, Susan, we've got you back. Your signal went out for just a moment. You were talking about the weight that jurors feel. And how about with Chad Daybell's case, for this juror in particular, Dana, probably extra weight, right, with that decision of voting for someone to receive the harshest penalty the law allows.
Right. You have to think about just their conscience. You know, can I live with the fact that I'm, you know, finding this person guilty, and also the death penalty? Now, for someone, you know, like myself, certainly if I were a juror, that weight would be pretty heavy. However, I would be able to separate my thoughts and feelings from what he did and then be able to stand confident with it. But I'm a different person. But that particular juror might be hypersensitive, right? She might be more emotional, and that would be a very difficult decision for her to make. But on the other hand, Julie, they're asked this question during the death penalty phase. Where do they stand when it comes to the death penalty? In a favor of 1 to 5. So where do they lay? And if the stronger they are towards the death penalty, oftentimes the opposing side will remove them. But if they're on the middle side, like a 2 or 3, then, you know, we'll keep them. But, you know, I'm always concerned about the 1s or the 5s, right? To the extremes, to one or the other. You want them kind of to be in the middle so they can liquid. And they tend to be more on the objective side, not so emotional, but they look at things more objectively rather subjectively.
Excellent point, Susan. Tell me, turning your attention to the Karen Reed case in particular, there is a concern, and a valid one, I am sure, with the Commonwealth as to making sure there are no stealth jurors. In any case, the government, we've talked about the Diddy case, same concern with the government. You want to make sure somebody isn't a stealth juror. Tell me, what do you think the likelihood is in the Reed case that someone could have gotten on there with an agenda?
I think highly likely. I think this is a real concern because why you might have someone in there that says, hey, you know what, the police department and officers are not truthful. Maybe they have had experience or someone in their family has, and they have a vendetta that they want to play out in the courtroom. I mean, that is a real possibility. So what I look for, and I think this is really important, are those really silent jurors, those ones that really don't say much during voir dire, or maybe, they kind of hide in the back, they kind of trying to melt in, they don't bring attention to themselves. But I'll tell you what, those are the ones that harbor the strongest opinion. I've seen this over and over again, even in mock trials. You always have one person or two people kind of sit back, they don't really enter into the conversation, they don't want to get involved in the deliberations. I've seen this in these mock trials, but man, when you point them out and you say, okay, well, juror number 4, I haven't heard you say much, but I would like to have your, what was your opinion on X, Y, and Z? Man, I mean, the stuff that would come out is like, whoa. And so that is the thing that I always tell attorneys, watch out for the silent juror. Those ones are the dangerous jurors. And that's why when you see them, don't pass them by. Ask them more probative questions, start to deliver more of a stimulus or a probe to get them to talking, and stop asking the yes or no questions. I want to hear a dialogue.
Great advice. Susan Constantine, thank you so much for sharing all that insight this morning. We'll look forward to having you back for another conversation very soon. Take care. And whatever the jury does decide in this case, on this program, we always want to remember the victim, Officer John O'Keefe. So as we head to this break, let's take a look at him. We've got his picture to show you. He served for 16 years on the Boston Police Department.